is our first experiment and seeing if we can get all of us at one place at one time within Cyber Hall. And so we got to take the chairs. All right, so we've got the chairs all set up to see how many people we can get in here, arrange it, and it's gonna look pretty good. So I think we're gonna be able to use this for a little while we have this space available, because you know there's furniture moving into this space. But we're gonna use this for all hands day. We're also gonna use it for Dr. Parrish's retirement reception in a couple of weeks. So thank you all for making it today. And what I want to do is kind of give you a brief overview of the Center for Advanced Public Safety, talk about some updates and announcements and things that are going on. But I also want to kind of bring everybody back to the same page on what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it. So first of all, let's start with our announcements and updates. The first thing is really bad news. Dr. Parrish is retiring. I'm sure y'all have been aware of it for a while, but it's become imminent and it's happening in a couple of weeks. And so he's going off to the great beyond to U.S. Naval Academy. He's going to be a Navy midshipman and do all that great work. So Dr. Parrish is in the back, and I want to thank him for his service to CAPS, and we're going to be having a retirement reception for him on May the 5th from 2 to 4, and I'll talk a little bit more about that with some details in a few minutes. But please make sure before he departs that you stop by and chat with him and give him your best regards. Next thing is with his retirement, we have a new director. I'm your new director. And so we've been preparing for that for a long time. We've been preparing for that transition and getting ready for all of that. And so we're smoothly working through the transition at the moment, so you shouldn't see any bubbles or burps along the way, and so things will be just continuing as they always have. I also want to introduce all of those that are on the leadership team, and I want to do that because we've got a lot of people who've been joining us over time, and you may not be aware of who all the folks are. First of all, you may not know me. I'm Dr. Laura Myers, and I've been here as a senior research scientist. I was deputy director, then I was executive director, and now the director. I'm a social scientist. I'm a criminologist by trade, and do a lot of social science research and social science and technology integration. So you'll hear a little bit more about that in a few minutes. So let me have the various members of the leadership team stand up and introduce themselves and give you their title. Start on the front row. Jason. Oh, you want the microphone?
No, not really. Yeah, so Associate Director of Grants and Operations.
He's important to us because of all the financial management, all the grants management. Everything that happens here has to go through Jason. He's critical. He is a key. Rhonda?
Rhonda Strickland, Associate Director. I think most people know me. I don't know. Everybody knows. I used to hire, they knew me, but I don't hire anymore. But anyway, Rhonda.
And that's the reason I'm having everybody stand up and introduce themselves, because, you know, I think over time you may not see each other. I mean, we're all in different parts of the building, and we may not know who it is. We know who the name is, but I want you to see it. Matthew, where are you?
Matthew Hudnall, Deputy Director / part-time fix-it guy and IT, over IT.
Helen Smith, Associate Director. Big wave tap from the peanut gallery back here. Associate Director of Project Management.
Bo Elliott is one of our other deputy directors. He's not here with us today. He's traveling for work. But if you don't know Bo, look him up on the website. You get a picture of him. He's around, and so you'll be able to catch up with him. Did I miss anybody else on the leadership team? All right, now, supervisors and unit leaders, stand up.
Pauline, trying to tell them.
Steve Burnett. Rebecca. Okay.
And welcome to our.
Yes, we're in Rebecca's office. Okay, so I wanted you to see that too, because, you know, in terms of our organizational structure, I wanted you to recognize kind of the hierarchy in terms of, you know, we've got all of our employees, and then we've got our supervisors, unit leaders, you've got the leadership team who have responsibilities for various parts of the organization. And so I want you to be able to get some face recognition and know who these folks are. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that process in a few minutes. Okay, new employees. Usually at the all-hands meeting, we introduce new employees. We haven't had an all-hands in a couple of months because of our move. And so I'm not sure I've caught every new employee, but I think there is just one. So if I miss anybody, I'm going to ask you that in just a second. But the one I'm aware of is J.C. Foster. Where's J.C.? Systems. It's very important to us because it's all about IT. And it's a very, very critical job, and he's been with us a little while. Comes to us internally from the university. He was with Mint, and now he's here with us, and I'm glad to have him. Very glad to have him. Anybody else that's not been introduced previously as a new employee? So everybody else here is just, you're always good. All right, very good. All right, employee news. Does anybody have any news for us? How many of you have gotten married recently? Josh? You got married recently? Hey, new babies? Almost on the way. New babies. All right. Yeah, and let us know about those things. If you'll let Helen know about those things, we want to update you guys and, you know, recognize those things. So as those things happen, let Helen know about it, and then at each all hands, you know, we'll be able to recognize that stuff. Anything else? Any other news you want to share? All right, cool. Well, I have some news to share. I'm now a resident of Tuscaloosa. As you may or may not know, I've been living in Birmingham the whole time. And so a couple of weeks ago, moved to Tuscaloosa, so I'm getting to know the town. I've become a resident. All right, Cyber Hall updates. Well, as you know, we've been moving in and going through all the pains of moving. And Matthew's been actually managing the whole process and done a really good job of making sure, you know, all the bells and whistles work and that we get in smoothly. And we're still in that process. I think we've made a lot of progress. I think we've gotten to where we need to be. We're still, you know, discovering things and looking at issues and, you know, getting everything where it needs to be. But I think we've made a lot of progress, and I think the place is just outstanding. I mean, in terms of what it was like before they did the renovations and what it looks like now and the space that we have and our ability to work in this environment, I think is really great. So there will be, you know, more adaptations and changes as we go along. So like I said, we're still in progress. I know the outside of the building is not the best. So we're working on landscaping issues and the exterior building issues. The road up here is going to open in the next couple of weeks, so we're going to have better access in and out of the property.
That's good.
Yes, it'll be very nice. And so we'll have that. So things like that will be happening, and we'll make sure that you're aware of those things happening. One of the things that we wanted to do is make sure we knew what our sheltering options were in this building. So since we're in a new building, if we ever have to take shelter for a tornado or any other type of an event, where would we go in this building? The emergency managers for the university came over last week and evaluated the building and determined what would be the safest locations for us, as well as the size of us, because there's a lot of us who have to shelter should we have to do that. And so the sheltering space is going to be what we call the knuckle out here on the first floor. The knuckle is that intersection of the two wings. And so back here, where that kind of entrance area is, behind all those walls, that back hallway back there, that center area behind the first set of walls will be the best place, okay? So the question is, can we all get in there? Should we have to get in there? So in addition to that, as you come out each of the wings to the big doors, That's good space. The restrooms on both sides are good. Don't come into the space, don't come through the doors, because then you're in unsafe territory, primarily because of the windows. So that's what they were looking for, is places that we could shelter away from windows. So you don't want to be in front of that conference room out there. You don't want to be on the second floor at all, okay? You don't want to be anywhere on the second floor because of the potential for collapse. So you want to be on the first floor. So I'll be sending out an announcement with more details on that, showing you specifically where that is. Been trying to get them over here to make that determination. We were going to make that determination ourselves if we had to, which was, essentially us figuring out what we thought was the safest place. But we are in severe weather season, and so there is a potential that we can be here at work and there'd be a tornado warning, and so we would need to go to those locations. I can tell you the next couple of weeks are supposed to be volatile. I'm the weather person, by the way. And so it's supposed to be somewhat volatile over the next few weeks, so we may actually, end up needing that space. So keep your ears alert. You'll get alert notifications for that, and I'll make sure you know where we're supposed to go. Another factor with our building is security. We've been looking at all the security aspects of this, and we're actually going to do a lot more. We're going to do a lot of evaluation of the environment, kind of figure out where our security potential issues are. But some of the things that we've done to improve security is we've cut off access to the third floor and any access from exterior entries through the top and through the sides. We've also secured the access to the building from 8 to 5. You previously could get in earlier and later, and so we've reduced that access. So what that means is anybody who comes up without their access cards won't be able to get in before 8 o'clock. With your act cards, you can. And so what we're just trying to do is reduce the access from people who are not supposed to be in the buildings except during normal working hours. So you may have noticed some of those changes, and we're continuing to work through some of those issues, just figuring out where the vulnerabilities are. It's a very odd building in terms of all the doors and portals and that sort of thing, so we're going to be doing some more assessments to figure those things out, and so you'll get more information on that. Okay, so back to our retirement reception coming up on May 5th. It's going to be from 2 to 4 on May 5th in this space right here. And all of you are invited to attend. You sure have already gotten notification that you're invited to attend. It's going to be an official reception. We're going to have lots of invited guests. A lot of our sponsors will be here. A lot of university people will be here, as well as us. And it's for us to recognize Dr. Parrish and what he's done. And so we're going to have a very official and really cool presentation, followed by snacks and cake and beverages afterwards. So on that particular day, we will have a lot of guests and external people in our environment, and they won't be just here in this room during the reception. They'll probably, want to get tours of the building. They'll be out, watching us while we're working before and after. And so you're going to see a lot of these people. And so remember, when we have those external guests in here, your interaction with them needs to be a really high level professional approach. And so, we want to be real careful in discussing things and discussing work and also politics and, personal opinions and those types of things. So it's just, really important to know who we're talking to and who we're interacting with, especially if they're in your space. And so think about what your space looks like and, make sure it's nice and orderly and clean and ready for guests, because there will be a lot of people coming through on that day. Also, because it is, a very official occasion and pretty high prestige, make sure you dress well that day, okay? Our typical attire, our casual attire, a little bit higher level for that day. So, because we will, we want to recognize Dr. Parrish, and we also want to show our good sides to our sponsors and our guests. Okay, any questions about the reception? Everybody knows you're invited, okay? All right. Okay. There's a picture of Cyber Hall. I had to get some pictures for some recent proposals, and we wanted to get some pictures of the building. This is a little bit earlier when the trees weren't out yet. But I thought that was a pretty good view. Our photographers, Morgan, did you take that picture?
Yes, ma'am.
You did? Yeah, I thought Morgan did an excellent job. We are out here in the country now, and not, really central to the university, but the university is coming to us. As you can see with all the construction out there. And there will be a lot more access to us and ability to access back to campus when they get these roads open. My understanding is that they are gonna probably cut the access over here that we've been taking from out on the side. And so they may actually cut that off, and so our main access will be through the front as well as the new entrance off the road. And so be prepared for that. Once we have all that kind of access, it will make it easier for us to move around and get back to campus, but it's also gonna make it easier for people to get out to us. One of the problems that we're having at this point is nobody can find us. And we're waiting on signage for the building. And it's one thing to tell people to come out here, and then they get out here and there's these buildings with no signs, and so they're trying to figure out where we are. So that's underway. We're hoping to get some signage before the reception, because with all these guests coming, it's gonna be hard. If not, we're gonna have temporary signage. But for deliveries and mail and all kinds of things, we're trying to get all of that adjusted so people can find us and make sure that we have the right interoperability with people.
You know that road that's open, is it gonna go all the way across?
Which one? This one back here?
To the Jack Warner?
Yeah, the Jack Warner one, my understanding of the Jack Warner one, if you've seen the video from above, it comes and it comes through and it comes back this way, so it connects front to back, it connects all the way back over to Shelby. And so remember, as we were leaving Shelby, they were opening up that road, so it'll come in.
I'm just worried about when I turn left.
Yeah, they're gonna put up a light, which is the best thing they could have done. Yeah, we were really concerned, but yes, there will be a traffic light. All right. Okay, now I want to remind you a little bit about our structure here at CAPS. We're a state agency, we're a nonprofit, and we're basically a contract and grant operation. The reason I wanted to remind you about this is I really kind of want to go over how we do our work and how our work is paid for and how your time is paid for and what your work is all about. So basically, you work on projects and products that are funded through grants and contracts. So there's a direct connection between most of what you do, and I'm saying most of what you do because you could be doing some R&D work, you could be doing some proposal work. There's different things you could be doing, but most of what you do is going to be directly tied to a contract or grant or multiple contracts and grants. Many of you work on multiple ones. We also collaborate with other university centers such as Mississippi State, Georgia Tech, Harding University, University of Puerto Rico. So we do a lot of university interaction, a lot of subcontract work, contract work with those other universities. So you may be affiliated with some of those projects and doing some of that kind of work. In terms of our personnel, this is an approximation. We kind of fluctuate anywhere between 130 to 150 people. We have 18 faculty members, 10 different disciplines that come from at least 4 colleges: engineering, business admin, arts and sciences, and community health sciences. We have 80 plus professional staff who are composed primarily of research engineers, software developers, and IT personnel. We have 42 plus students, graduate research assistants, and undergraduate interns. So you guys all represent those different categories of personnel who work here at CAPS. The faculty represent primarily computer science, but also other disciplines. The developers, most have a master's in computer science, and our students that are working with us are interning with selected staff and mentors. And part of the process here at CAPS is to bring these students on while they're students, get them an experience, and many of them go on to work for us as actual staff over time. So it's a great pipeline for bringing people into the process here at CAPS. Also wanted to remind you of who some of our partners and sponsors are, and you may have seen some of this in some of my previous presentations, but I wanted to remind you who some of those entities are. We do a lot of work with Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, ALEA, the Department of Revenue, the Office of Highway Safety, Homeland Security, the Administrator's Office of the Courts, a lot of work for DOT, the Department of Transportation, Public Safety, which is DPS, the Department of Finance, Human Resources, and Public Health. Our federal sponsors include the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, FMCSA, NHTSA, the Highway Traffic Safety Administration, lot of our research grants come through BJA and OJP, the Department of Homeland Security, Health and Human Services, and a lot of our weather research comes through NOAA. And we're doing a lot more interaction with the National Water Center. Now that they're on campus and they're actually getting up and going, we're actually starting to get several contracts and projects, and there'll be some upcoming this summer that some of you may be involved in. Other states that we work with: Mississippi, Arkansas, New Mexico, Georgia, Wyoming, Nevada, and the Puerto Rico Territory. A lot of the projects that we've done here in Alabama, we've been able to replicate in other states. So you may have been involved in products or projects in Alabama that we've been able to translate to some of these other states. And in fact, that's where they got me. I was directing the e-citation project at Mississippi State for the state of Mississippi. And so that's how I got to know CAPS and UA, and so I came over here to work on the other side. Here's some of our technologies: electronic citations, the vehicle crash reporting, the IO reports, the ambulance run reports, commercial vehicle. We do a lot in commercial vehicle enforcement. In fact, we have quite a division that's working on all of that, and there's a lot of funding in that area. The criminal data query systems, NCIC and LETS, y'all are probably familiar. If you don't know about NCIC, that's how we track down people and their records, and so we do a lot with that. Data analysis and geographic information systems, the authentication management for all of Alabama law enforcement, the vehicle titling system, the vehicle registration repository, the vehicle online insurance verification system, food assistance application, children's insurance application system, and that's just to name a few. And the reasons I list all that for you is this is a huge portfolio. If you can imagine that we're responsible here at CAPS for having developed all of those different systems and the usage for those systems, it's absolutely unbelievable. What's been done here over the years and the implementation and the impact is just phenomenal. We also do a lot of mobile app work. Matt York and his group have been doing a lot of work with mobile apps. We're getting a lot more requests for mobile app development. A lot of our sponsors, a lot of agencies are very interested in the mobile app side in terms of information exchange and how mobile apps will assist them in doing what they do. So we've got one, with the state DMV. It'll do law enforcement query and data collection. We have one with the Tuscaloosa County Sheriff's Department. They're really good for commercial vehicle inspections. We're also getting ready to do one here for the UA Emergency Management Office for the entire university to exchange safety and security information. So those are coming along quite a bit now. So myalabama.gov is a portal to access state services from a central location, integrate social services, disaster response, and state licensing. We're doing some work in virtual reality and wearable computing. We've been doing some development of visualization for disaster response. We've got a lot of attention for a tornado simulation that we've built in regards to reducing anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as educating people about what they should do in a weather disaster. And that's where we've gotten into the whole behavioral intervention, helping people deal with their anxieties associated with severe weather. Some of our R&D work, it's got a lag on it. We've done a lot of work in data analytics to support decision making. That's a big area now, all about big data and data analytics and trying to take a lot of data and make that useful for decision makers. I mentioned the virtual reality stuff. We're doing a lot of work with that with first responders. We've done some work with school safety decision making and using a lot of our technology for that. And then a lot of the work that I do is improving severe weather warnings. We're part of a big project right now called Vortex Southeast, which is all about trying to understand tornadoes and tornado warning improvement right here in the Southeast. That's why I know the bad weather's coming. And this is just kind of an overview of some of our stuff, just to remind you of what it is and what it looks like. The Mobile Officer Vision, our MOVE system, is what incorporates a lot of our technologies. It provides a comprehensive and uniform mobile information solution for every police officer in Alabama. Some of the considerations in terms of that development was agency and user support, the lack of mobile data units in the field, the complexity and technical competency of our end users, the use of existing technology and moving to better technology, aligning local objectives and statewide strategy, which is a really fun part of this process of figuring out what their needs are and adapting that to their policies and procedures and making it something they want to use. And then the big issue for everything that we do is the issue of connecting funding to the development of these things. So there's a lot of federal funding and state funding out there that have supported the development of these technologies. And here's a visualization of MOVE. It kind of shows you the various things, our eCitation, eCrash, Ultra, which is the Uniform Crime Reporting System, Let's Go, the NCIC Mobile, the Automatic Vehicle Locator, the License Plate Reader, Aspen Field Reporting. All of those things can be accessible to an officer in their car, so that they'll be able to tap into that and utilize those systems to make their job more efficient. Here's some just numbers in terms of when we started doing electronic citations back in 2003, 2005, we were in production statewide. A total of about 85,000 citations per month are issued with these systems. Total elimination of paper, which is a really great thing. The big thing is that the whole connectivity between this eliminates all the problems associated with the paper process. Paper gets lost. And so this thing is all connected to the courts, the entire system, the scheduling of court dates. So there's complete court e-filing integration, so the whole system is connected. And then the issue of trying to get widespread adoption. And that was done in Alabama. We've done that in other states. We're still in the process in other states. And that's a big part of what we do is the whole implementation. The crash reporting started in 2008. It was in production with the troopers in 2009. In production statewide in 2010. It was funded by commercial vehicle funding, and what it's done is to improve the crash data quality since the system went into production. It improves edits, improves timeliness. If you've ever been involved in a crash, you'll know all about the crash reporting. It's a very important piece of documentation. It's used for research purposes, it's used for legal purposes, and it used to be all done manually and by hand. And so now it's all done electronically, much more efficient and effective. The LET system, the law enforcement query engine for Alabama, features things like driver's license photos, the vehicle tag and registration, social network representation, data mining. It's very popular. It's used to solve many crimes. Investigators in their law enforcement work need to be able to access this data. And our systems allow for better integration of that data, ease of access to that data to help do investigatory work. The NCIC mobile client queries out-of-state and federal systems, brings up the driver's license with photo, the vehicle, the property, does a lot of checks. Advanced authentication, that's a big part of what is done here at CAPS, is our authentication systems, making sure the right users get to the right information and controlling that access and authentication. You're probably very familiar with CARE. If you're not, this is one of the biggest things that CAPS has developed over time. And what CARE is the critical analysis reporting environment. Our end users, law enforcement, state agencies, these people are not necessarily statisticians, but they need to be able to manage the data that they process through their organizations. And that's what CARE does. It allows all of that data to be put into these dashboards, simplifies the process of doing the analyses that they want to do to answer the questions they need to answer without having to be a statistician. And so we've done a lot of development with end users about what they need in these dashboards so that we can produce the dashboards that will do what they need them to do. Advance is part of that, the CEO dashboard. Here's an example of what they can look like. The graphical depictions of the data. These can be totally customized to the need of the decision maker. It allows for that deep analysis and searching as well as mapping of data. Hotspot analysis, and this is something a lot of law enforcement people do, is they try to conceptualize with the hotspot mapping where the issues are, where the problems are, so the dashboard allows for that kind of analytics. Then there's, of course, all the geolocating. We're able to geolocate the vehicles and what's happening, where the citations are issued, where the crashes are. And then here's a little bit more about the iOS and Android development. I mentioned some of this earlier. I mentioned our authentication control. That's a big thing. to be able to do that kind of authentication management. And that's been a big asset to the agencies that we work with. Here's some usage statistics, just in terms of the installs on vehicles and with personnel. You can see the numbers for the whole MOVE system, eSide, eCrash, and Ultra. Ultra is that uniform crime reporting data. The feds require that crime reporting be collected, and so a lot of our people have been working with that. Cody's been working with Ultra for a very long time to automate that process, and it's been a hard task, it's a very difficult task, and the interesting part is Alabama is better than most states in the country in regards to uniform crime reporting, and so we're a big part of that, which is really, really cool. Vehicle registrations, you can see the numbers. When you go to register your vehicle, you are touching a CAPS product. Titles, vehicle titles. Here's some of the numbers for citations and crash courses. Look at those numbers. 10 million citations a day, 100,000 per month, 1 million plus in Mississippi, 900,000 plus in Arkansas, 790,000 crash courses a day. And these statistics are a little bit old because we don't update them that often. So it's much higher than that at the moment. Online insurance verification, 48 million total verifications today. Alabama Verify, 400,000 queries per month. And then here's some of the stuff that we've been doing with the weather research. We do a lot of work with the Weather Enterprise, Emergency Management, the broadcast meteorologists, the National Weather Service, trying to improve the warning process. We study and explain how people respond to severe weather events, people's perceptions about weather. We look at how we educate the public to improve the process. We look at messaging, and we look at how people prepare and maintain their preparedness for severe weather. Where we first got started in this was after April 27th, the anniversary, 5-year anniversary of this is on Wednesday. Right now, we're actually undergoing a bunch of interviews about what it's like 5 years later based on the research we did back in 2011 in terms of improving the process. And there's been a lot of improvements in the weather warning process from the research that we've done about how the public gets their messaging, what they do with that messaging, and how we can do better with the warning process. One of the things that we've worked on is what we call events. What we call events has a lot to do with how people respond to it. Hurricane Sandy, by the time it got to the Northeast, was no longer a hurricane, so they took the name away and just called it Sandy. When they took the name away, then people thought, well, it's not going to be so bad. It turned out to be worse than any hurricane they'd ever had in the Northeast because it became a superstorm, hit a nor'easter, and became much worse. So one of the changes we were able to advocate for from the research was that once you name it something, it has to stay that regardless, because if you're going to change it, then it's going to cause confusion for the public. So once you hear something called a hurricane in the future, it will stay a hurricane until it's no longer anything. We did a lot of work with the January 2014 little minor snow event here in Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, as well as over in Atlanta. We've been actually presenting off of that research ever since 2014. They're making major changes in the way they do warnings for roadway conditions. They're now going to start integrating roadway conditions with the weather warning process, so that it gets into the temperature of the roadway, what's happening above the roadway. So there's going to be a lot more information for these types of events, because these are what they call uncertain events that lead to catastrophic outcomes, like what happened in Atlanta. This was a transportation disaster because people didn't realize what this was going to do on those roads. We've also done a lot of work in terms of, we know the public needs visual cues and secondary confirmation. We've worked extensively since 2011 with James Spann at ABC 3340 in terms of confirming that this sort of stuff works. This is something he did during the April 27th, 2011 tornadoes. He provided this visualization to the public. So we were able to determine that this makes more sense to people, that this really happens. A lot of people are like, it's really not that bad, or it's not going to happen to me here. But when they see these visual confirmations, then they get it. And then they're like, oh, I got to do something now. As I mentioned, we've done a lot of work with James, and so what we've done is to look and see what broadcast meteorologists do that makes a difference. The tone, the seriousness of what they say and how they say it makes a difference. When they talk about impacts, we've changed the whole warning system process from the old method to talking about impacts. So instead of just saying a tornado warning, we're going to talk about the impacts of that in the warning itself. We're going to say this will bring down brick buildings. This is going to bring down trees and power lines. That makes it more real to the public. We've done research on outlooks and lead time, how much lead time is necessary. We've done a whole focus on the understanding of watches and warnings. You might think that's simple, but it's not. People don't necessarily understand what watches and warnings mean. And then we've done a lot about calls to action. When James says it's time to be in your safe place now, we've done a lot of research on what kind of statements like that get people to take action. We've also done a lot of graphics work with weather people about what gets people's attention. Visualization is really key. One of the things that we've learned in all of this is a lot of people don't know what county they live in, if you can imagine. And think about it, if you're traveling and you're in a hotel, you're at a business meeting, do you necessarily know what county you're in? I don't. I try to now. And it's really important because a lot of these warnings are going to be county-based, and they're going to be out there, or they're going to be a polygon over a particular county, and you may not know where you are in relation to that warning. So colors and borders and information and data and where and what are very important to depict graphically. And here's one of the integrations we've done with the social science research and the technology. This is something that Bo and his folks have been working on with the Weather Service, taking the information we have and integrating it into the MOVE environment. So I showed you MOVE earlier and all the things that we have in that. What we're going to have now is the ability of law enforcement officers to serve as storm spotters. And they're also going to be able to get the weather information in their car, so they're going to know when they're in danger. So the warnings, the polygons, all of that information is going to show up on the maps in their car. So they'll know if they're getting ready to drive into something, or where they need to go to get around it, or where they need to go to help people who may be in those locations. They're also going to be able to, using MapClick, be able to geolocate what they're seeing. So they will be serving as storm spotters. And in conjunction with the Weather Service, they're going to be able to show exactly what they're seeing, how much they're seeing, in addition to where the geolocation is. So you can see the pin drop there, and then they'll be able to indicate on the drop down and use exactly what they're dealing with. That information will go from their car back to the Weather Service, to the broadcast meteorologist, real time, as opposed to the old method where an officer would call dispatch and say, this is what I'm seeing. Dispatch, will you call the Weather Service? Will you call the TV station? Which of course is a very delayed process. And so this makes it all real time. All right, so that's just kind of an overview of some of the things that we have done, are doing, constantly working on. So I just wanted to bring you back up to speed on really what our portfolio is all about. So now I want to talk a little bit about some of our management strategies and things that as an organization we want to be working on. So first of all is chain of command. Chain of command in this organization, remember I introduced everybody a while ago in terms of supervisors and unit leaders. When you have questions, when you have concerns, when you have anything that you need to have addressed, you need to go to your next level supervisor. You don't want to jump the chain of command and go all the way to the top when you want to start with your first line supervisor. Because your first line supervisor is your first line of communication. That's who you want to go to see what their response is, their resolution, what information they can provide you. If they can't, then they know where to go. They know what level to go to next. If you're not satisfied, then you can move up each chain. Now what's really important is not going outside the chain for information. I'll give you an example of that. So let's say that you're looking outside here at the exterior of the building, and you're thinking, you know, it'd be nice if we had some ergonomic picnic tables out here. And instead of asking inside CAPS, you said, well, I'm going to contact HR and see if there's some way we can get ergonomic picnic tables so we can have a place to sit out here. Well, here's what's going to happen. HR is going to contact us and say, is there something you can do? How would you address this? You've gone outside to bring it right back inside. So a lot of times starting on the inside, we're going to be able to address it and resolve it, and we'll move all the way through the chain. And if we need to go outside to address it, we will. But if you go outside and come back from the other direction, it's just going to come right back to us anyway. So want to really get you to understand the importance of going through your chain of command. Don't start at the top, start right above you, move through it. If you see the need to go externally, you should only be going externally when you've exhausted everything else internally. And that's the way it works in organizations. As a student in a university, if you have a complaint or a concern about a course you're taking, who's the first person you're supposed to go to?
The teacher.
Of course, go to your professor. You don't go to the chair of the department, you don't go to the dean, you definitely don't go to the university president, because what are they going to tell you? They're going to go right back to that professor. If you're not happy with what the professor says, then what do? Then you go to the next level in the chain. So that's how the process works. Okay, another thing, you may have heard we're moving to the service center model on October 1st. How many of you have heard about that? It's about half the hands. We're going to have a meeting later on, and I'll provide a lot more details, and the leadership team will help provide details on the process. But essentially, many of you are going to be operating your hours under what we call the service center model. And so your hours are going to be connected to this service center approach in terms of hourly rates are computed on all the things that we did. And so all the various parts of this will be computed as an hourly rate, as opposed to the way we've done it in the past, where you're connected to a project by a percentage. So those hours are going to be computed, and we have to manage that by knowing exactly how many hours that you work on a particular project. And so one of the things that we're doing right now is figuring out an easy way, a simple method for keeping up with those hours. In the past, it's just been, okay, you got things you got to do, you're working on a particular project, but now we got to connect the hours. So we're in the process of doing that simply so that it doesn't take effort on your part to give us what hours you're working on, what projects and what products and that sort of thing. So over the summer, we'll come back to you with a meeting and explain how that whole process is going to work and how that system will operate. But that's coming. And so you're probably going to have a lot of questions about it. You may already have questions. I've heard there's questions out there. So we're going to be dealing with that and addressing that over the summer. Another thing that's related to the service center model is making sure that the hours are kept up with correctly. And one of those things is about completing the full 7.75 hours per day in whatever manner it needs to be completed. Because we have flex time, we have leave, we have sick time, and all that is still there. So how do we do that with all of that? Well, first of all, we need to go back to the issue of hours worked in a day. Core hours and caps are 9 to 3. So no matter how you work your hours with flex time, if you come in early, if you come in late, come in early and leave early, if you come in late and you leave later, you still have to be here from 9 to 3. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we have to have core hours? What's that?
And have meetings.
Collaboration is the main thing, okay? And meetings are important too. But it's basically for collaboration. We've got to have a set number of hours where we know everybody can be working together. And so that's when you would have your meetings. That's when you would have your conference calls. That's when you would have your strategy sessions. That's when everybody can expect everybody to be here. And so those are the hours you have to work, okay? You have to be here by 9, and you can't leave before 3 for the end of your workday. Now, some of you work what we call flex hours. That means coming in early or coming in later, you shift your time. And so you can do that as long as the 9 to 3 is covered. So however early you come in or however late, as long as you're here for the 9 to 3, doesn't matter. Now, you also have to have approval for that flex time. And there's a supervisory approval for flex time. There's a form. And we're going to make sure that you have that form when we do your annual evaluations in a couple of weeks. So you'll be seeing that form. So if you don't already have the approval or the form in place, you'll have the opportunity to take care of that during your annual evaluation. If you think you already have approval for that, You just need to let your supervisor know, and that form needs to be located. If that form is not available, if they can't find it, then you just need to do a new form. If you're gonna take flex time, if you're gonna start doing flex time, and this is consistent flex time, this is not, I need to work early and work late on a given day. This is a consistent thing that you're gonna do. If you're gonna do that, you have to have supervisor approval for it. So going forward, you need to make sure you have that approval. We've had a lot of requests for working from home, and we're in the process of developing policies for working from home. One of the things that we know that we're gonna cover in the working from home policy, it cannot be consistent. So this issue of flex time is a consistent thing. Working from home would be a random thing, things that you would have to do just now and then, all right? So we're working on the approval for that process, we're working on the criteria for that process, and so Helen and I are working that up. Once we have those policies developed, and we've been getting input from you guys about that, so that's what we're using to develop the policies. So we'll get that back out to you and let you know how that process will work. Then there's the issue of leave time planning. Part of the service center model, the way we're gonna try to keep up with this, is being able to account for leave time. Because instead of saying, did you work 7.75 hours, it's easier to look at the amount of leave time that you took. So then you just subtract that from the 7.75 and the total over time. And so part of this is we need to account for your leave time, so your leave time needs to be available and there. Also, in terms of leave time, you need to make sure that you're doing your leave time appropriately.
When the specified 4 hours, does that mean all minutes meetings will be during those time periods? It's kind of like that we're right outside those.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the all hands meeting scheduling. As you notice, it's at 2 o'clock on Monday. Isn't that different? Yeah. And that's within that time period. We're probably gonna start to run over it shortly. The reason it's always been on Fridays at 3:30 is because of all the meetings that we have during the week. And so that's really the best time for everybody in the organization to do it. But we're gonna try to move it back into that 9 to 3 time frame to be able to do that. Okay, so leave policy. This is the university leave policy. Department heads and supervisors are responsible for scheduling and approving annual leave of their staff prior to actual absences. And that's the key here. Every effort will be made to schedule leave as requested by the employee. Scheduling leave, however, the effective continuation of the normal work routine will be the primary consideration. Supervisors, managers, or department heads will make the final determination regarding whether or not an employee's annual leave may be taken at the time requested by the employee. A recognized holiday which occurs during an employee's vacation will not be charged to annual leave time. The importance of seeking approval, we're not gonna say no, okay? Unless it's one of those things where you're needed, we have a meeting out of state, there's something going on, you know, we may request that you reconsider because you're needed for something. But in most cases, it's not gonna be any issue at all. The issue is advanced notification, all right? We need to know so we can accommodate for you not being present, all right? You taking the leave and leaving leaves that work undone. Remember I talked about those hours, and I talked about the funding and the grants and the contracts? Every hour you work is charged to a funding source. So when you take that leave and you're not working, then we have to make sure somebody is working on that, because that work has to be done, all right? And so if you're gonna take that leave, we have to be able to accommodate that. I can't find out when I need you that you're on leave, okay? That's a little late. I need to be able to accommodate that. And so the leave reporting system takes care of that. You seek approval from your supervisor, that information is recorded, everybody plans and takes care of that. Here's the sick leave policy. Sick leave is not an earned right, but a privilege and should be taken only for reasons provided in this policy. Employees must report an absence of sick leave to their supervisor prior to the absence or at the earliest opportunity, giving the reason for the absence and the expected date of return. In addition, some departments may have specific guidelines regarding sick leave. If this is the case, the department guidelines should be followed. Employees may be required to provide documentation for absences. Employees may be granted sick leave when they are unable to perform their duties because of personal illness or injury, must attend to the serious illness of relatives who reside in the immediate household, must attend to the serious illness of their parents, must obtain health-related professional services that cannot be obtained after regular working hours. That's the common stuff for sick leave, okay? Now, what we're trying to get at is you want to take sick leave for sick time. You want to take annual leave for annual leave activities, okay? What you can't do is take sick leave or take sick time and say you're going to work from home. You're either sick or you're at work, okay? And so that's one of the things we want to try to reduce is people trying to work while they're sick. And the issue is, like, even with the work from home policy, if you're staying home to take care of sick kids and you're trying to work from home, how can you work from home if you're managing sick kids? So that's what we're going to be looking at is the policies associated with that and making sure that you're fully aware of how to take the sick time, how to take the annual leave time, and also use the work from home policy. Another part of this is we're not trying to make you come to work when you're sick, all right? So take the sick time for when you're sick, all right? And that's really critical because if you're sick and you're coming to work, you're contaminating the rest of it, all right? And we don't want that either. So we're not trying to force people to work. So just wanted to kind of go back over the policies and what they are. The biggest thing is for annual leave, make sure it's approved in advance. Make sure people are notified. Now, a big piece of this is some of you are taking vacations or you're planning for extended leave. As soon as you know that you're going to take vacation time or you're going to take an extended leave for whatever reason, let your supervisor know. Because we need to plan for that, especially if it's for more than a couple of days. If you're taking a week-long vacation or a 2-week vacation, and we don't know that till you're ready to take that leave, then boom, how are we going to cover those 2 weeks? If you're going to take more than that for whatever leave reasons you have, we need to be able to plan for that. We don't need to find out about it later on down the road. Let your supervisor know as soon as possible.
Hey, Laura, and so, speaking to that point, that's gonna become a really huge deal in the service center model because we're billing for actual hours worked. So if you're on leave, we won't bill. So the farther ahead that we know, the better we can plan, especially financially. And I know she's speaking more to like progress on the projects and those kind of things, but it also impacts our financial planning and forecasting. So, especially when you're out for extended periods, or if you just use all your leave time. I mean, obviously, we all get a lot of leave time, so that's in the future when we move to the service center model, it will have a huge financial impact as far as our billing and on our grant.
I'm probably one of the worst about taking 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there. If I'm done with something, I'm not going to sit and stare at the clock for 20 minutes. What is the impact on that?
Yeah, so not to get beyond the scope of where we are right now, because we're gonna, Helen and a few others are working on how we will report time so that we bill. It's not gonna be like that at all. We're not gonna say, give me your time sheet, I need to see what you did every minute of the day. So you can kind of get that out of your mind. But we do have to have all these policies in place because the way we're gonna go about it, essentially, we've said you guaranteed that you worked 775 and I can bill for that. And so then by minusing off your leave time, I know how many hours to do.
But I can put 15 minutes leave and leave because I don't have anything else to do that day and that'll work out.
Yeah. So, I mean, we may
add 15 minutes tomorrow.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know that we're gonna nitpick it to that level, so,
And we don't want to.
no, because just like you don't wanna keep up with that, I don't
I
either.
typically do keep up with it. If I leave early, I write it down and
Well,
don't worry about it later.
Well, sure, but, so, down to the 15 minutes, we probably, quarter of an hour, that's fine, but, anyway, like I say, we're kind of getting beyond the scope of this, and we'll have a very detailed meeting on how to track that and how we're gonna report it and those kind of things. But that'll be a whole.
biggest thing is organizational need, and that's where that 9 to 3 comes from, is we need people to be here from 9 to 3 so that we can cut in business between those hours. And then, you know, for your annual leave, you need to plan for that, you know, we need to know. I mean, we were looking at it this morning with the number of people that were out today, the needs that we had for today, and it was amazing for such a large organization that we have to be able to accommodate for that, because there were things that I needed to do later this afternoon, and I found out that people weren't here. And so it's like, you know, I gotta be able to know where people are so I can replace that function if I need to. So the 15 minutes here and there, y'all take care of that yourself. You know how to do that. You know if you work under, you're gonna work over. Sometimes you're gonna be working on projects on a deadline, and you're gonna work several hours over, and you know how to adjust that. And that goes back to that 7.75 hours. It's like if you work 3 hours over, you're gonna work 3 hours under later. You know, and that's professional responsibility.
But I was just gonna say, on a day-to-day basis though, we don't need people coming in at 9 o'clock, leaving at 3 o'clock, and then taking an hour to hour and a half for lunch. What you end up with is maybe they work 4.5 or 5 hours in a day. And we need to be much more diligent to make sure those circumstances don't happen.
You know, like if you're, you know, the 4 hours or 9 to 3, and you're using that flex time, you gotta take that hour lunch into account. And so you gotta make sure that you're doing the full 7.75 hours with the 9 to 3 is accommodated, whether you take lunch or not. You know, a lot of people don't take lunch, they get their days. So that's counting.
What do supervisors do with the information once they? What do supervisors do with the information for their team members once they approve it?
That's gonna be part of this new model that we're doing, and so that information will be connected, and that's the process that we're working on.
Yeah, right now it's not uniform. I think different people do it different ways, you know. A reminder on your calendar. I go and put it on the leave calendar whenever anybody tells me, and that way I can always refer to the leave calendar and notice, oh yeah, that's why. So, I mean, there's lots of different ways. I think that people are handling that, and we're trying to come up, Jeremy's got some good ideas, and we're working on putting together something, you know, to track that, and it will also help with the service center, so it kind of has that double usage, you know, it's gonna kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and so we're gonna try to roll that out and give supervisors a better way to keep up with it, other than just trying to keep up with a bunch of emails that end up in their inbox.
There's another question.
With a lot of this time tracking and stuff, is there any thought to how we'll handle unfunded actions?
Yeah, that's a piece of all of this. In terms of the service center model, there are certain employees who work under that model, and then there are those who don't. And so like proposal writing is not funded, and so that's.
Well, I meant like from the support aspect, you know, something that's going, you know, the contract is in it, and there's.
Oh, you're
but
talking
they need,
about
like, extra-
no cost extension?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on that in a lot of different ways. So we're streamlining the process on the front end now to try to prevent those no cost extension issues. Because, you know, we've had projects that weren't scoped properly, the scope creep, you know, just all kinds of issues that have emerged over time. And so you guys know I'm the troubleshooter for those projects. Where's Matthew Kilgore? Here, me and Matthew lived that life for a while. And, you know, because I was trying to manage a project that he inherited and had to work like that for a while. And the issue was trying to cut down that as much as possible. So now we're trying to deal with it on the front end to make sure those things don't happen. So one of the things you're going to start to see, and you've probably already seen it with Helen, is that all projects will have a kickoff meeting from now on. And those kickoff meetings are designed to streamline that. We're streamlining the proposal process. There's also a review of the proposals to make sure these things are in the proposals on the front end. Because a lot of our sponsors or funding agencies don't necessarily require that specificity. So we're putting that specificity ourselves on the front end to try to eliminate that potential.
Is that gonna involve developers?
Would it involve developers? It could. I mean, if we're scoping the project and trying to figure those things out, yeah, it could.
But basically, we'll have written guidelines for how to track that time versus other time.
Yeah, it's going to be with your supervisors. You know, it's going to be about deliverables. It's going to be about milestones and timelines. So with that sort of thing, that's how you reduce that problem. So then we would know, because if we're very general and vague and we don't have milestones and we don't have deliverables, then that leads us in a real fudgy area, which creates that potential. Other questions?
essentially just one. CAPS would just be considered a service center. And when we say service center, that's just an accounting term that means essentially we will charge for the usage of the service center at a general hourly rate. We will only have one rate. Right now, it's $56.11. That's what CAPS will charge per hour.
Yeah, because in the past, everybody's been at different rates or percentages and different things, but this just lumps it all together in a rate, and it works really well. And it's something we've been working with the university to develop. Now we're working with our sponsors to get them used to it, and so all proposals will be written with that in the future. So it's a real tight process.
And that's the time for the person, the cost of their machine, the cost of their software, the cost of potential training for the individual, and all rolled into $1 figure. So it's not just profit we're making off of an individual.
Right. Yeah, remember, we can't make profit.
Actually, no, that does not include the university's cut. That is just the cost for us to, like he said, basically supply a worker. So, you know, essentially everything contained in your cube is what we're billing. Well, so there's overhead tacked on top of that. That's just CAPS rate per hour. It is very cheap.
Again, we're not for profit. Okay, other issues. Taking college courses. As you know, a benefit of working here is you can take college courses. And if you're scheduling those courses during your workday, you've got to get approval to take a course during the workday from your supervisor. And there is a form for that and a plan that you have to include on that form for how you're going to make up the time if you're taking the course during your work hours. So going forward, when you're taking courses that will be during your workday, make sure you go through that process with your supervisor. And y'all will come up with a plan for how to accommodate that time. Okay, I mentioned the chain of command. The next thing is annual evaluations. Yes, sir.
What I just believe, the college courses, does that include during core hours? Or, because some courses, specifically in engineering, have no flexibility options available.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and the core hours are important. This would be an exception to the core hours. That's why you want to talk to your supervisor, and they'll work through it with you.
thank you. Just wanted to
And see, here's one of the issues with flexibility. That's a random occurrence. That's not going to be every semester constantly. It's going to be a day or two a week where that's going to be a factor. So a lot of what you guys are doing are random type things. All we're talking about is consistent things.
Thank you.
Okay, annual evaluations, they're upcoming. Okay, as you know, we really formalized that process last year with the supervisors, and how the process would work, how the ranking system would work, what the rankings mean. And so we did a really good job with that last year. Helen's been working with the supervisors again this year to get ready for this next round, and it's getting ready to come up again. So your evaluations are getting ready to be scheduled. You may have already started undergoing them. And so that process has happened. A lot of these approvals and forms can be taken care of at that time. And so you'll go through that whole process. All of that will be reviewed. You'll get your information on your evaluation. So be ready for that. We have a deadline by which we have to have those done and all the things that go along with that process. So it has to be done in a very timely manner. So when you start seeing the scheduling for that, work your best to get those done with your supervisor so that they can get that information and put it all together with us, because then we have to look at all of that. So really, really critical. Okay, so all the information I have, so now I want to throw it back to you for any questions, concerns, issues that you might have.
Do you know when we're gonna find out, how much our students are doing work this summer?
So that gives you a question.
You know when we're gonna find out our students as far as how long they're gonna work this summer, if they're being invited out or whatever?
Wendy's in the process of gathering all the student evaluation stuff, that information. They're finding out who wants to work. We're looking at the evaluations, so we should know fairly soon.
Yeah, we're a little behind where we wanted to be. We wanted to have that out by last
Yeah,
Friday.
before finals.
Yeah, but as soon as we get it pulled together, yeah, you know, and so so in the past, by and large, we always had plenty of money and it wasn't that big of a question from a financial aspect. You know, and then we've also formalized their evaluation process. So, you know, we're trying to find out, well, should they come back? And so we're trying to match the two together. It's just taking a little longer than.
Other questions? Concern? I'll fix it. Yeah, really? Yeah, that's good. Okay, anything else? All right. Well, I appreciate your attendance today, and if you have any, questions or concerns, my door's always open. But your supervisors have a lot of answers too, so don't, hesitate to talk to your supervisors. Don't hesitate to come see me if you need to. I'm usually around. If I'm not here, I'm out on a weather thing. So, but I'm usually here.